On my 60th birthday, my children kept poking fun at me, their laughter sharp as they asked when I'd pass away, eager to claim their inheritance. I forced a smile, but 2 days later, I made a move they never anticipated. Turning 60 should have been a moment of pride, a celebration of a life rich with accomplishments. Instead, it felt like a countdown to when my family could profit from my life's work, as if I were nothing more than a ticket to cash in. The party was extravagant, held in a private room at an upscale restaurant, its walls lined with polished oak crystal glasses glinting under warm chandeliers. The guests included colleagues, lifelong friends, and of course my family. My daughters, Claire and Hannah, were unusually warm, showering me with affection, unlike their usual selves, who only reached out when they needed something. My spouse, Margaret, floated around in a costly gown I'd purchased, laughing, raising toasts, playing the role of the perfect partner. Her son Liam, from her previous marriage, sat quietly at the table's far end, unnoticed by the others. The evening began smoothly, fine wine, exquisite dishes, pleasant chatter. But then came the jabs. Claire was the first to cross the line. "So, Dad, when you're gone, can we expect a fortune?" The table erupted in laughter. My hand tightened around my glass, but I managed a grin. Hannah joined in, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Or should we sell the business? Split it evenly?" More chuckles. Even Margaret chimed in. "Don't make them wait too long, James." They didn't bother hiding their greed. No one spoke of the life I'd built, no gratitude for what I'd given them, just talk of money, properties, assets. I was reduced to my wealth. I laughed along. What else could I do? Ruin my own milestone dinner. But as the night wore on, their comments grew sharper, each one a stark reminder of what I'd ignored for too long. They didn't care about me. They cared about the lifestyle I provided, the luxury vacations, the trust funds, the safety net that let them live without worry, knowing I'd always step in. When I got home, their laughter lingered in my mind, now sounding cold. Cruel. Margaret fell asleep quickly, unaware of the turmoil churning inside me. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the truth settling in. They were waiting for me to die, counting down to the day they could carve up my legacy. That night I made a choice that would change everything. The morning after my birthday, I woke before Margaret. The room was still, save for the soft hum of the air conditioner. She slept peacefully beside me, wrapped in luxurious sheets I'd paid for in a home I'd built. I replayed the previous night, the laughter, the sly glances, the casual way my daughters spoke of my death like it was a payday. They weren't mourning the idea of losing their father. They were tallying their gains. For years, I'd brushed off the signs, convincing myself their selfishness was just youthful folly, that they loved me beyond my fortune. But that night broke the delusion. It wasn't a jest to them. It was a timeline, and they weren't hiding it anymore. I slipped out of bed, dressed quietly, and left before Margaret stirred. I couldn't stomach her morning pleasantries, the empty affection she used to mask her motives. I drove in silence, the city still waking, streets nearly empty. I wasn't heading to the office. I was going somewhere far more significant. My lawyer, Thomas, had handled my affairs for decades. He'd guided me through the early days of my company, through my divorce from Claire and Hannah's mother, through my marriage to Margaret. If anyone knew my finances, it was him. He greeted me with his usual calm professionalism but gave me a wary glance. He sensed something was off. "I want to rework everything," I told him as I sat down. He leaned back slightly. "How major are these changes?" "Major," I said. I outlined my plan. Every account, every asset, every investment. My daughters expected to inherit millions, enough to live extravagantly without effort. Margaret assumed she'd stay in luxury forever. That wasn't happening. Most of it would go to charities, children's hospitals, housing programs, education initiatives, causes that mattered, causes that wouldn't be frittered away on designer clothes or second homes. Claire and Hannah would get a modest amount, enough to live decently, but not enough to coast through life. Margaret, she'd keep the house we lived in and nothing else. She'd entered this marriage with nothing, expecting to be set for life. That expectation was about to collapse. The only one I left a significant portion to was Liam, Margaret's son from her first marriage. He wasn't my blood, and we'd never been close. But he was the only one in that house who never treated me like a cash machine. He worked hard, never asked for favors. He deserved a real chance, and I was giving it to him. Thomas listened, jotting notes. When I finished, he studied me for a long moment. "You know how they'll react if they find out, don't you?" I exhaled slowly. "Yes." He didn't try to change my mind. He knew me well enough to see my resolve. We finalized the changes, and by the time I left his office, everything was in place. I expected to feel regret or hesitation. Instead, I felt free. For 2 days, life went on as normal. I had breakfast with Margaret, took calls, responded to Claire and Hannah's messages as if nothing had shifted. They still thought their lavish future was secure. Then, on the third day, they learned the truth, and all hell broke loose. The eruption came at 10:42 am. I was in my home office, finishing a call, when Margaret's voice cut through the house. Not her usual warm tone. This was raw, enraged. I barely stood before she stormed in, legal papers in one hand, the other balled into a fist. She must have just spoken to Thomas. Her face was red, her eyes burning. "What is this?" she snapped, waving the documents. "Tell me this is a mistake." I stayed calm. "It's not." Her chest rose and fell. "So after all these years I get nothing? You keep the house," I said evenly. She let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "The house." That's it. I could see her mind spinning. She'd married me for my wealth, lived a life she could never have afforded alone. Now it was slipping away. Before I could say more, my phone buzzed. Calls from Claire, then Hannah, then Claire again. They knew. Margaret exhaled sharply and turned to leave. "You'd better answer, James. They're coming." I didn't wait long. By noon, Claire and Hannah burst through the door like a storm. They skipped pleasantries. "Are you out of your mind?" Claire demanded. "What kind of father does this?" Hannah piled on. "How could you do this?" They threw accusations, cruel, heartless, selfish. They ranted about how they'd counted on that money, how I was ruining their futures. Hannah even mentioned a seaside condo she'd had her eye on in Miami. Not once did they ask why. Not once did they consider if they'd earned it. Margaret sat in the corner, arms folded, fuming. She hadn't spoken much since her initial outburst, but her silence was deafening. Then, amidst the shouting, another voice broke through. "Maybe you should all take a breath." Everyone turned. Liam stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, his face neutral. He'd been quiet all morning, but now he stepped forward. "You can't even hear yourselves, can you?" he said, looking at Claire and Hannah. "You're furious because you're not getting millions for doing nothing." Claire rolled her eyes. "Oh, look who's talking. You're probably loving this, aren't you?" Hannah smirked. "Did you talk him into this?" Liam frowned. "I didn't know about it until now." That was true. He had no idea I'd left him anything, but unlike the others, he wasn't yelling about money. Claire turned back to me. "Dad, this isn't fair. We're your daughters. We should come first." I met her gaze and finally said what I'd held back for years. "You only remember I'm your father when you need something." The room went quiet. They had no answer because they knew it was true. I'd given them everything, and in return they'd given me nothing but demands. Now, for the first time, they faced a future without my safety net, and they hated me for it. The air grew thick. Claire paced, arms crossed, lips tight. Hannah shook her head in disbelief. Margaret sat silently, her anger simmering. Claire finally stopped and faced me. "I don't understand. What did we do wrong?" I leaned back. "You treated me like an ATM. You only called when you wanted something. You never invited me anywhere unless I footed the bill. Every meal, every vacation. It was never about me. It was about my money." Hannah scoffed. "That's absurd. We love you." I raised an eyebrow. "When was the last time you did something for me just because?" Silence. Claire glanced at Hannah, searching for a response. Hannah clenched her jaw but said nothing. Margaret sighed dramatically. "James, you're acting like we're the bad guys. We're your family." I turned to her. "And what does that mean?" She blinked. "It means we should come first, not strangers." I exhaled. "That's the thing, Margaret. Strangers have treated me better than my own family. Strangers don't joke about my death. Strangers don't pretend to care when all they want is my money." Claire groaned. "Oh my God, Dad, are you seriously playing the victim?" Hannah crossed her arms. "Poor rich guy, right? Life's so tough." I studied them, my daughters, my own blood, the two people I'd loved without condition since they were born, and there they stood, unable to grasp why I'd cut them off. They weren't hurt because they'd lost me. They were furious because I'd drawn a line they couldn't cross. Margaret tried again, her voice softening, her eyes pleading, the look she used to win me over. "James, just think about this, okay? You don't have to decide now, let's just—" "This is my decision." Her lips tightened. Claire exhaled sharply. "Unbelievable, so you're screwing over your own family for what? To feel like a saint?" I shook my head. "I'm doing this because it's right, and because I'm done pretending I don't see who you really are." Hannah grabbed her bag. "Fine, don't come crying to us when you realize how alone you are." Claire smirked. "Yeah, enjoy your charities. Hope they keep you company in the nursing home." Margaret stood slowly. She didn't shout. She just looked at me like I was nothing now. "You'll regret this," she said softly. Then they left, one by one, slamming the door behind them. I sat there for a long time. The house was quiet again. and for the first time in years the silence felt like peace.